Have I told you guys how much I appreciate you recently? I think I have the best audience in the entire Tesla sphere, if you will. And uh, loyalty and always great comments. And anyway, I just wanted to say that as a starting point this morning as we go into the last few weeks of 2025. Today's show is going to be all about 2026. Hang on to your seats. Here we go. You know, the most highly respected analysts, just their PTs all the time. They get grief when they do sometimes, but I mean, Tom Lee, right now, I think he's at the top of the heap. I think I'm not alone in thinking that. And Tom Lee, he's like, well, S&P 7,000 by the end of the year. Well, no, S&P 7,200, but no, okay, I think maybe it won't hit 7,000. Well, no, it'll be 7,500 by the end of the year. I mean, these are just like in a few weeks, he's gone through all those changes. I've been at 7,100. I'm sticking with my 7,100, but if I wanted to, I should be able to change it. So anyway, I think my calls on Tesla have been closer than anybody else's, other than maybe Brian Huang. I've made numerous calls. I don't make a ton of calls, but then I stick with them for month after month after month. But today, I am going to change my call for the end of this year. I'm going to change my call for the end of January, but I'm not going to change my calls beyond that. And you'll see why in just a second. I'm going to get a little conservative on you. I know that's not what you expect from me. But we're delaying some of it because basically Tesla has delayed. They're a little slower to do the things that we all expected them to do. Now, maybe things are going to speed up that now that Elon is back full time and is energized by his new plan, but maybe not. Maybe we'll still be really, really safety oriented in cyber cab roll or the overall robotaxi rollout. And that could still delay my numbers even more, but we'll see. I think we may be getting extremely close. A little bit on the 14.1.7, where there's still some issues with the software being a little too excitable that probably need to be smoothed out before the robotaxi be rolled out. Now, it seems to be doing just fine in most circumstances, so maybe not. We'll see. We've got 6 weeks to the end of the year we got 6 weeks before Elon's promises will be broken. And when I say promises, his projections. So in April of 2023, I've reminded you of this a few times because you see, I really do think that my estimates have been way at the top of the list. In April, well, they should be. I studied this 12 hours a day. In April of 2023, I said that 2026 would be the year when everything came together at Tesla. In full disclosure, I thought that Optimus, Semi, and even Robotaxi would be further along than they are. I thought all of those would be ramping in 2025 so that we would hit the ground running in 2026. And in fact, in the case of Semi, I thought we would have fully ramped in 2025 and we would be we'd be, into the 50,000s in 2026. But even with those delays, I think 2026 is going to be every bit as explosive as I thought it would be back when I made that prediction. Now, let's go down the list real quick. 4680 is almost here. The dry cathode was harder than expected. But Elon says now that it's going to be used in Cybercab, Cybertruck, and semi-truck. That's a lot of units of 4680. You start adding that up. I mean, that's what he just said. He said that like 2 weeks ago. It's going to be used in Cybercab. That's million, well, first year, I don't know, 400, 500,000 units the first year. It's going to be used in Cybertruck, which is not making that many units, but it uses a lot of batteries. And then semi-truck, which is going to use a ton of batteries. Okay, so number two, energy storage is a huge winner with the new factory ramping during 2026. And my expectations would be we'll be hearing about more factories being started shortly. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if there are already factories that have been, land or buildings that have been purchased, and it just hasn't been announced yet. Semi will become autonomous in 2026. A lot of question about that. A lot of people saying, well, semi won't be autonomous. No, Elon has made it very clear. Other people within Tesla have made it very clear that semi will get autonomy in 2026. Once we've got, I think, 14.2, I think that's when they'll start working on both the hardware 3 autonomy, or yeah, fully autonomy, if you will, the unsupervised, and also with the semi truck. We will also have a 1 million unit line for Optimus, which is already, my understanding would be it's probably already underway. And that line will be built in 2026 and will begin to be ramped in the later part of 2026 with version 3 of the Optimus being the killer, the killer robot, and it'll be used initially in-house and then for third parties, but all of that within 2026. And then Cybercab will ramp in 2026, which wasn't even on anybody's radar in 2023 when I made the prediction. Unsupervised vehicles will be a thing in 2026, and Elon has said vehicle production is expected to go up again, like the old days. We'll be upping the production by 50% in 2026 and another 50% in 2027 with a 3 million per year capacity. And I think it's more than that. I think that's being underplayed. I think that maybe it's 3.6, 3.7, might even be a little more than that once they ramp up the the cybercabs. And I think a bunch of that 2026 production is going to go into robotaxi fleet. Maybe 250,000 or more will go into the robotaxi fleet in 2026. That will be the cybercabs, Model 3s and Model Ys also. All right, Whole Mars blog has this. He says, in the United States, there is a traffic fatality roughly every 79 million miles. Tesla FSD has now traveled 6.4 billion miles. Assuming it was no more or less safe than driving manually, you would expect there to be 81 fatalities with FSD on. As a matter of fact, with 14 million miles traveled every day, you would expect to see a fatality with FSD about every 5 days. But that's not happening. Just not happening. And as far as I can tell, there's only been just two reported fatalities with FSD active, both on much older versions. So these would be 2 fatalities where the FSD was still on right up to the point of impact, because we've other situations where there's been the fatalities, but there's every evidence that the FSD had been turned off 20 seconds, 30 seconds before the accident. So he says, I'm forced to conclude that there are at least 75 people who are alive today because of the work of the Tesla AI team, and we're just getting started. Gavin S. Baker has this kind of longish but very important post today. He says, yesterday, the real Jim Chanos posited that Tesla's relatively low CapEx meant that they were not a serious competitor in the real world AI and in robotics. I responded to that post on X by saying, are you kidding? Tesla has this amazing reputation for having a much, much greater return on invested capital. Other people responded as well, saying that it was a completely wrong-headed way to see things. Jim Chanos has completely lost all respect. I think at this point he had one good idea. It was a big one, but since then he's been wrong time after time after time. So anyway, this is the Gavin Baker says that it's exactly the wrong way to look at it. And the implications of this fact are actually proving positive for Tesla. Tesla's inference definitionally happens in the car. Their inference takes place in the car. And so their customers are effectively paying for the inference compute, the CapEx, which is now probably the majority of the hyperscaler CapEx spend. Jensen Huang has said 90% of the future of CapEx spend in this world of AI will be for inference, and yet Tesla doesn't have to spend it. In fact, they're getting their customers to pay for it. Tesla's CapEx may be an order of magnitude higher if they had to synthetically generate relevant driving data in the data center. Customer-subsidized vertical integration is beautiful. This is also why at some point Tesla customers will be able to put their cars into a pool of distributed edge compute and earn money when the car is not driving. The same way that Akamai and Cloudflare are putting single GPUs in their edge nodes. I have no idea what that means, but maybe you do. Let me know in the comments below. The Tesla Feet, as the world's largest by far for most distributed CDN for AI, and only AIs obviously can't cache content in cars, is a real possibility. BYD will have a similar opportunity and similar inference cost advantage, but it's way downstream. Beyond this significant inference cost advantage, Tesla has the second largest coherent Hopper cluster behind only xAI in the world for pre-training. You only need one coherent cluster if it's large enough. Coherent clusters size drives the capital efficiency for pre-training. No one has been able to match the xAI and Tesla clusters from a coherence speed and cost perspective, with coherence being the most important. Remember how Elon put together, nobody else was able to do more than 31,000 of the AI chips in a single coherent cluster. And then Elon says, well, let me think about that for 2 hours. And he comes up with how to do it. And now you have these huge coherent clusters. This is why Jensen Huang described their data center design and execution as superhuman. That means Elon Musk's superhuman. Should note that Tesla also has an AI4 cluster for post-training or mid-training or whatever we're calling it these days. Tesla also has a significant data advantage, huge data advantage for training chinchilla optimal FSD models as real-world video scales infinitely, and this data advantage further lowers the capitalization training cost. Less synthetic data generation and 3P data sourcing / labeling versus labs that are training LLMs. This relative capital efficiency is a result of all these advantages. They have the largest coherent cluster, customers paying for inference, data set size, and ongoing data generation costs is likely to matter for robotaxi and FSD competitors who are less capital efficient. The costs are broken down for AI. Google is the low-cost producer of LLM tokens, with xAI as number 2, but Tesla is the lowest cost producer of tokens that matter for FSD and robotaxis. AI is the first time in my career that being the low-cost producer has mattered, as token quality effectively drives quality in a reasonable world. I think the dynamic is very underappreciated by the market. Tesla might very well be outcompeted by an FSD competitor, unlikely though, from my perspective, he says, but anything is possible. But this will not happen because of their relative CapEx spend. If LLM inference happened at the edge on phones and PCs, as with FSD, hyperscaler CapEx would be much lower. This is the real risk to data center spending. Not all the value / macro takes. By the way, memory is the biggest winner in the scenario, which is years out if scaling laws continue to hold. Jim is a smart guy, but I humbly think his AI takes are misinformed, as did the All In podcast guys over the weekend. Also so strange to me that anyone is focused on AI as a bubble, given the extremely obvious quantum and nuclear bubbles where there are loads of equities that can decline 99% and still be overvalued. Elon Musk responded to that post, which is how it came to my attention. He says, exactly, the reason Tesla hasn't yet spent more on AI training is that it wasn't yet the limiting factor for FSD. It will be the limiting factor for Optimus, so we're building Cortex-2 for that training. Elon Musk says, he also says, we just wrapped up the AI5 yesterday, Saturday. That chip design is now completely done. The review is done. Everything's done a few hours ago. AI5 is finished. We're starting to do some work on AI6 too. Michael Dell and I happened to be meeting just beforehand. So that was Michael Dell was referenced above. And I happened to be meeting just beforehand. So I invited him to join. Hopefully, I found it interesting. By the way, AI5 will not be available in sufficient volume to switch over Tesla production lines until mid 2027, as we need several 100,000 completed AI5 boards line side, meaning they need them immediately for other things besides going into all of those vehicles. Where are we now on Tesla stock? Where am I now? How do I see, given all of that, which is the core, which is the crux of what's going to happen going forward in 2026? The stock has now had its clearing event. Elon has his pay package. That clears the decks. Yeah, we're still going to hear from Delaware. Who cares now? It doesn't matter. Okay, that's over. We have now had the markets clearing event with this correction last week, which may or may not be over. We might go down more. And what I'm saying, that Tesla stock might go down more if the market goes down more, or we might be close to the beginning of the next leg. Either way, if it goes down more, or if that was it, we now begin the next leg of the bull market. And that's just not me saying so. It's Tom Lee and many, many others on the tech side as well as on the fundamental side. And tonight in my show, my regular show, Monday morning, which takes place Sunday night, I'm going to go into the details of what's going to happen in the general economy over this same period, over this next 2 months, 3 months. What's going to happen to the general economy in the next 2 to 3 months is unprecedented. There's nothing ever been like it. And I'll go over those details tonight. Tesla is now down to just a single catalyst that matters: removal of the safety rider. This one catalyst provides all the other catalysts. You see, once we have the removal of the safety rider, we can expand the geography where robotaxi is offered. We can expand the number of vehicles that are out there. And then unsupervised can come along on top of that. And then we get the introduction of the Cybercab and the autonomous semi-truck. And that's huge. The semi-truck is going to be huge. That's going to be, the autonomous semi-truck matters more than anybody is thinking about. So all of those catalysts will happen just because of one thing: getting rid of the safety driver. 2026 is going to be a massive breakout year, as you heard me say back all the way in April of 2023. Now, one nagging thought, which is why I've reduced my price targets, one nagging thought I've had for a while is that true robotaxis running in Austin and California without a safety rider, even with 1,500 vehicles, which I've talked about all, for the last couple of months, that might now be seen as the beginning. This will be just the fulfilling of expectations that has taken the stock to a 160 PE. In other words, can you imagine this is that everybody's looking at it in a way similar to me, and they're going, okay, when robotaxi happens, the stock is worth $500, give or take, when robotaxi happens. And so we've gone to 480, we've gone to 470, we've gone to 488 intraday. All that's been happening years ago, and then again a couple of years ago, and then again this year. All of those have been, I believe, every single one of those highs has been about robotaxi being almost there. And yet this year, even as the stock hit 470 and then 460, anyway, it's still been about robotaxi being fully engaged. Well, it's still not. And I think there's been a little bit of a, what do you want to call it? Exhaustion. That's the word. There's been some exhaustion about getting there. So that's why I'm thinking that when we actually do it, when the safety rider comes out and we start to build the fleet over the next couple of months, start to add new cities, starting to see safety riders in those new cities and 10 or 20 or 30 cars. When we see that, it's going to be not a sell the news. It's going to be, okay, we believe it now, but we're not going to give you the same PE because it's just taken too long. So the PE will come down a little, or actually, I guess it'll be around, the actual PE will be around the same, but the price target, the price number will be that 408, 500, and then moving towards 600 maybe by the end of the year, or certainly by the end of January. So instead of 750, which has been my number, I'm now pulling that back for the first month of 2026. I'm pulling that back to 600. I still think we do the 750 in the first half, assuming again that the robotaxi expansion continues, Cybercab comes out, Tesla Semi comes out, all the things that we just talked about, all those things happen in the first half of 2026. The 750 will still happen by the end of 2026. But here's the crazy part. I'm not changing my year-end 2026 at all. It's still 2000. Okay, so I'm not touching that number because why? Because if we get the ramp on robotaxi, if we get the Tesla semis and we get autonomy, if we get unsupervised, and then Elon says we're going to go to a 50% increase in vehicle sales, if 50% from 1.8 to that would be to 2.7, and then the next year maybe to 3 maybe to 4 million. If those numbers are happening along the same way, and then you add in Optimus doing what we think Optimus is going to do, and that is just get the line started, get the first beginnings of the ramp of the version 3, and begin to sell them to third parties. All of that in 2026, I'm telling you, we'll be at 2,000 by the end of the year. So I think it will take a strong market also, but I think the 7,100 close is still in play. And if we have this S&P close, then I think we might get to 600 by the end of the year, but I'm going to hedge that and say by the end of January. So again, we could be much higher if we have a seriously compelling demo of Optimus anywhere along the way. And believe me, we haven't seen that yet. Would you agree? All right, let's see. I think I'm going to end it there, and the rest of this is going to go in tonight. Yeah, I'm going to leave the rest of this for tonight. I think that's my story for this morning, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so what have I got coming up? As you can tell, Monday morning, the show will be on tonight, and we will be talking about the general economy more tonight than Tesla. We'll have the Tesla news, but more about the general economy. And I'm telling you, the excitement around the general economy should be just as high as the excitement around Tesla. It's going to be bonkers. And there's 3 big reasons why. We'll talk about those 3 big reasons why it's just going to be absolutely unfathomable what's going to happen to the general economy in the next, let's call it in the next 7 months, but really in the next 4 months. So we'll talk about that tonight, and we'll give you the regular expectations about what government reporting will happen next week and other reports that are coming up this week. We'll talk about why we think the stock market is going to bounce pretty quickly back up and start that next leg. All that's going to happen tonight on the Monday morning show. And then after that, Phil Beisel, part 3. But let me say something to you guys right now. You loyal members of this particular channel, the Larry Goldberg video that I did, the video I did with Larry Goldberg about Cathie Wood was a bomb in terms of numbers. I don't know why you guys decided to pass on that. I mean, I know it was a week late, but that shouldn't matter. You should go back and watch that. Okay, I'm putting the card right here. Phil Beisel also did a great video with me yesterday, and that got horrible numbers. So I'm not sure why. I'm not going to put that card up now because the one you have to watch, the one you absolutely must watch, if you have time today, is you got to watch the Larry Goldberg video because it was absolutely phenomenal in terms of what we discussed. So go back and take a look at those. And then while you're thinking about it, while you're doing all of that, then you go down to the information below. And if you haven't bought the book yet, I don't know why you haven't bought the book yet. 40 now. 40. I haven't looked this morning yet. 40 5-star recommendations. 1-star negative comment came from somebody who didn't read the book. If you read the comment, you'll see it's obvious they didn't read the book. And then we have 1 3-star review now. No, it's not even a review. It's just a 3-star, check mark. Oh, 3-star, with absolutely no commentary to let us know why he or she didn't like it. Anyway, buy the book. By the way, if you haven't bought the book, and then when you buy the book and you read the book, then review the book. It'd be phenomenal. That would just be like, I can't tell you how amazing if you do those things. All right. That's all I got for you right now. It's been great. talking to you.